This broadcast is part of the IC Robots radio network. Visit icrobots.com for this and many other nerd/nostalgia-related podcasts. You won't be sorry for long.
Countdown for blast off. X-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X-minus 1, fire.
I don't wanna grow up, don't wanna grow up. I don't wanna grow up, don't wanna grow up. I don't wanna grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. There's a million toys at Toys R Us that I can.
Welcome to the Toys R Us Report, recorded live on Jupiter's third largest moon, Callisto. He be pulsating, dominating up above. It's Run DMC style, so stop and show love to your host, IC Robots.
Greetings, Earth people. I'm from Jupiter. It is me again, IC Robots. I'm not a hero, but I do sacrifice a bit of my week each and every week, make your week a bit less week. And this week, it's gonna get a lot less week. We're gonna talk about what is one of everybody's favorite topics in all the world of topics, and that is arcade games, video games, and all of that sort of related stuff. We're going to start off with a little talk about what's going on with this, and a little talk about what's that. Let's, got a new thing from Iceberg. It's been on the mix. All right, hit it.
Spell anything. I-S-E-E-R-O-B-O-E-S. That is correct. Now spell answer.
Iceberg, thanks from that. I appreciate you getting back on the mix every once in a while. You really got something fun out of that speak and spells. Speak and spells are cool, I guess, from back in the old days when I had the chance to play with one. I had fun for a little bit, but it is basically an educational toy that's asking you to spell things. It's cool that it has a voice, and at the time that was magnificent. Do you remember when those greeting cards started popping off that had recorded messages inside of those? Like, on some of them they would have like a pre-recorded thing, and other ones you'd pop it open and you would hear like your grandma saying happy birthday. I used to trip out on those when I was a young sprat. I would always take the recorder out of the card, and then I never did anything productive with it. It wasn't like I'm going to tell you right now, I would take it out, and then I would make these fantastic hip-hop jams off the recordings. I would just kind of take them out and mess with them till they inevitably got destroyed. What we're going to talk about on this week's episode is the top 5 arcade games of all the times. The arcade era was a nice bit of the past. It was a time that we all enjoyed. We all had fun. It was something we all look back upon with a great degree of love. And it isn't as if the arcade era is over. We have an arcade fun center the next town over. Arcades are more arcade/fun centers nowadays. They have some games. They got some redemption games. They got some stuff like mini golf or whatever the attraction may be. There aren't really a whole ton of like standalone arcades that feature video games. I know there's Arcadia. I think there's one in Chicago. There are some retro arcades pop up from time to time. There's one in, I believe, Alameda. I keep talking to Doug McCoy about potentially doing a meetup over there, but he says they have a lot of MAME machines as opposed to original cabinets. So I'm not dying to go there. I'd like to see Doug, but I'm not dying to go over there and play some MAME. I can do that at Jew Shack. They have a MAME machine at the Jew Shack over in Montgomery Village that every once in a game when I'm walking by, I'll stop and play a couple rounds of something. That usually gives me my arcade fix. But we do go to the Fun Center, Scandia, sometimes from time to time. 2.0 likes the she likes rhythm games, and they got a bunch of like K-pop games over there that she's into. I mostly play like Street Fighter when I'm over there. They have a couple like retro MAME cabinets, and they got all the games you'd want to play. You know, your Burger Time or what have you, and Moon Patrol, Berserk. They have all those games in there, and it's pretty much the same. So it's no big deal to mess around with one of those. But when I get there, I usually get drawn to playing Street Fighter. I wasn't massively into Street Fighter back in the olden times. I would play from time to time. I like M. Bison. He's my favorite dude. I like it that he's so one-dimensional. All he can do is punch, and he's obviously based on Mike Tyson, and I was like a big Mike Tyson guy. So it's fun. It's fun to try to beat the various martial artists using only the skills of Western boxing. I have a lot of fun doing that. I also sometimes like to use the Native American guy whose name eludes me right now. Of the original dudes, I like Dalzim. I liked using my reach and my wits to win fights. I don't know many combos. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy who has the combo moves in effect. I just kind of punch, kick, do a bit of grappling, and try to win using my basic skills. And it's always fun. Back in when we had an Aladdin's Castle in the downtown mall that was like the center of my arcade universe. I would go there with my folks when we would do the mall trip. It was down on the corner, and then on the other corner it was a small block, like an edge block, and on the other side of it was some kind of a store that sold like stickers and candy, like candy by the pound, and my folks would give me a small amount of money to goof around the mall with, and I usually go and use it all at Aladdin's Castle. Sometimes my bro would get some like gummy bears by weight. So when we were back home, you know, I'd have spent my $3 on arcade games and had nothing to show for it but a little fun. He'd be sitting there eating gummy bears, and I would be mad jealous. He outthought me on that one, but I got a lot of good memories of hanging out in Aladdin's Castle back in the day. Aladdin's Castle hung around here for a long time. It's a Victoria's Secret now. The Victoria's Secrets took over that space, and also the sticker / candy store. So that whole segment is just one giant underwear store where I used to spend my time playing Tempest, and playing Frogger is now an emporium of ladies' underwear. It goes to show the time. If I recall correctly, the Aladdin's Castle had the more fancy opening. The kind of looked like a Middle Eastern door, kind of pointy and stuff. If you dig what I'm saying, if you can picture that back, it had that door motif. It was really dark in there. It was like pitch black, and who knew what kind of weird stuff was going on in the far corners. I was, like I said, just a youthful sprat, but there were like older dudes in there too, you know, 18, 20 and up, and I imagine there was some kind of something going on, maybe some, you know, illicit deals or whatever. I don't know, but it did have this exciting, sketchy feel. It always felt like when you were in there and you were doing the thing where you put your token up on the top of the game so that you get to play next. It was, as a youth, you never knew if you were actually going to get your turn or not. They might just knock you aside and continue on with their game. You never know. I've even seen it to where dudes got the token snatched by bigger bullies. But those are the risks you faced, and those are the risks that made the whole experience more exciting. There was always this: you might die, you might get switchbladed by some hooligan in a denim jacket with an Iron Maiden patch on the back and like long feathered hair. There were a lot of guys like that. I still go by there all the time, and I see the Victoria's Secrets on the wall where the opening of the Aladdin's Castle used to be. There's like a few soda machines. They kind of fixed it up, and they put like a bathroom over there, a public bathroom. But I still wish it was the Aladdin's Castle. I know you couldn't pay mall rent. The mall rent here it's ludicrous, but I still think that the arcade is a viable economic idea. If you can find a place with affordable rent, I think people need things to do. People want things to do. People want to get out of the house, and if you get a nice building, you fill it full of video games, you put a snack bar, you have a nice environment, you make it cool. People will probably come. I don't know where you could do that in Santa Rosa. The rents here are off the chain, especially after the fire. Rents have gone through the roof. When we were visiting my folks, we were looking at mall real estate. Like they had a couple places up for rent, and we inquired about the prices, and they're like $500 to $700 to be in what's like a mainstream mall. I think that if you could get that kind of a deal, you could probably bring like an Aladdin's Castle style store back to a mall. I've seen weirder things happen. Maybe making a front for money laundering, like in that show Ozarks. Maybe that'll help your finances a smudge. There was also Chuck E. Cheese. The difference was, though, you had to go and eat at Chuck E. Cheese. You could if you wanted to, I guess, go and use the arcade, but I never did, so I didn't go there anywhere near as much as I went to Aladdin's Castle. I plan on dedicating some time to Chuck E. Cheese after a while. I have some really neat memories of that place. It was really great. It was in the Brickyard Plaza, if I am remembering correctly, and they had one big main arcade, and then they had like a smaller room, and they had a big main auditorium where the band would play, and then underneath there was like this maze that you could crawl through, and there were always all kinds of weird shenanigans. That's where the weird kids would go and try to hide from Chuck E. Cheese or try to hide from the birthday party. It was kind of goth, kind of gloomy under there, even though it was brightly lit and brightly colored. I got a lot of fond memories of Chuck E. Cheese. I still go from time to time. You'll get like invited to a kid's birthday party. The one in Brickyard Plaza is gone, but there's a Chuck E.'s over in Roner Park. It's nowhere near the same. It's all redemption games. Back when I was into it, the main crux of everything was of course arcade games. They would have other things like, you remember those biorhythm machines? They would print out these cards with all kinds of stats for what your life was going to be like. They had those. They had the Funky Maloon, those machines that would blow up balloons. They would have the chickens that would spin around and spit eggs. And there was skee-ball. There was, of course, redemption. But I remember that the arcade games were the main crux of all fun when you were a young boy. We're going to cut right now. We're going to move into At the Movies, and then when we come back, we're going to have my top 5 arcade games of all the times.
In a moment, At the Movies, without Ebert, Siskel, or even that dude Roper. But you got Icy Robot, so that's something, right?
You get a little bit out of time, and that's all it takes to put you down on the ground. Here's Brady Jaffe.
No more riding, no more rodeos.
Some guys, they get scared to get on again, and then they end up becoming farmers. Ain't that right, Brady? You don't let no pain put you down.
Had to sell Gus, Brady.
You can't sell Gus.
It's not like you can ride anymore.
This past Monday, we saw a movie that was a little off the norm for what I usually talk about here on the show, but I thought that it was so good that I wanted to share it with you. It's a movie called The Writer. It actually came out late last year, but it is just now reaching our Arty Farty theater here in Santa Rosa. We actually saw this on Memorial Day. We went really early in the day. I think it was like 10 o'clock, and there was a good amount of people in the theater. I realized it was a holiday. This was the Arty Farty big feature opening up for the holiday weekend. This was this was what was competing with Solo in the arty farty circuit. The movie was directed by Chloe Zhao, who I'm not overly familiar with her work, to be perfectly honest. She did a movie the other year called Songs My Brother Taught Me that has gotten a lot of good reviews, but I have not seen it myself. The movie stars a dude named Brady Jandreau as Brady Blackburn, and the co-star is a movie Tim Jandreau as Wayne Blackburn, his father. The story is of that a rodeo chap, a hardcore rodeo up-and-comer. He takes a fall from his horse. He gets a catastrophic brain injury that prohibits him from riding any further. It's the story of this guy learning to adjust to the world of the normals, of the non rodeo folks. Rodeo is so darn dangerous. These guys are up there with the most extreme of all the extreme athletes. You are guaranteed to take a giant fall just about every time you get on a bronco. I assume that there is the chance you can break the bronco and it'll just stop. But for the most part, you're going to get tossed, and you're going to get tossed hard. There's no way to fake gravity. You're going to hit the earth with a lot of force. These guys are the toughest of the tough, and our guy Brady in the story comes from the upper part of America, almost into Canada. The people have Canadian-like accents. He's in like North Dakota, and it is so rural there. It's practically the wild. There is miles and miles and miles of open space. It's gorgeous there, but it's for the toughest of the tough. You're out there on your own, and these guys have a hard time adjusting to a world where Brady is no longer on the circuit. He was a real up-and-comer, so him going down and out it affects the whole group, and you got to see these tough guys. They kind of prod him. They're trying to a small degree, get him to go back, but he tells them that a brain injury is not the same as a back injury. The problem he has is in his hand. His hand is having a hard time grabbing a hold of the ropes. Okay, here is the hook of the movie. This was something that I did not know going in, and it was quite interesting and distinct. The fellow that did you just hear that? That was Jen Urso falling off my Star Wars shelf here on the moon base. I got this Saw Gerrera figure that I love, but Saw falls down all the time, and when he does, let me pick her up. Let me get her, Jen. He always takes Jen with her. This is the 3.75-inch Jen Urso Star Wars Black. I got her at Walmart. She was on clearance. She cost $3. I got her, and then the very same day that I opened her, I lost her gun. So, yay for me. Anywho, here's the hook of the movie. The chap Brady, the main star, is actually a rodeo rider who suffered a catastrophic brain injury right at the time of the filming. You were watching him go through what is his real life, and the person who plays his father is in fact his real life father. His sister is his real life sister. All the people around him they're really his friends. It is the weirdest, most realistic thing I have ever seen in a movie that was not directly a documentary. It's wild. It's super sad. It's a super sad story. I was not brought to any theater tears as I sometimes do, but there were points where I was starting to feel a bit of a breakdown. It's a hard thing to watch good old Brady go through just not knowing what to do with his life. He thought this rodeo thing was going to be his thing, and now he's bagging groceries, and his family has money problems because he also worked as a horse rider and a horse trainer, and he can't ride without risking a fall. Anytime you go up on a horse, you might you might fall. And if he falls, that could be it. That could be a wrap. I don't have a lot of experience with horses. I have ridden a horse a few times. I am not comfortable in any way doing so. I would say if pressed, I could stay up on a horse, maybe at a brisk walk. No way a run, no way a trot. Maybe a brisk walk. I think that I could do it. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't be comfortable. The horse would feel it. The horse would throw me off. I would get a catastrophic brain injury, and that would be it for my whatever career it is that I happen to have. The movie was unlike anything I have ever seen in a story of this sort. In a, what's the word I'm looking for? In a fictional narrative. I've never seen a movie in anything like this. I highly recommend it. I do have to tell you, it is sad. There is no music during the course of the movie. A lot of it is just very quiet. I think they're trying to show you what it's like out in the world there, in that part of the world. It's beautiful, but it is very much the wild, to a degree. It's settled, of course, but you're out there on your own, and they try to illustrate the silence of being out there on your own. So, right now on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie it's sitting pretty at 97 with the critics and 81 with the peeps. It may be not as many folks as critics like it, I guess. That was my greatest piece of analysis of all time. So, the people don't like it as much as the critics. You can tell this because the people give it a lower score. I am an analytical genius. You guys don't know how lucky you are to have me. The movie runs for 1 hour and 44 minutes. It was put out by Sony Picture Classics, directed by Chloe Zhao, starred Brady and Tim Jandreau. And with all that said, on the good old-fashioned Source Magazine mic meter, with 1 being a dud and 5 being an all-time classic, I am going to go ahead and give the writer 4 mics.
4 mics.
This is Don Fry, and you're listening to Toys R Us Report. Touch that dial and I'll kill you.
Program, Scarecrow and Mrs. King will not be seen tonight, but will return next week at this time.
This week, our boy Icy Robots has something fun and at least a little bit special. A look at his top 5 favorite arcade video games of all the times.
Like we learned in the first segment of the show, I like an arcade game as much as maybe a little bit more than the average guy of nowadays. So in celebration of that, I thought that we would go over my top 5 arcade games of all the times. Now I want you to think and realize that this is just me, man. This is just what I think. You are certainly entitled to disagree with me, to agree with me, to make your own list. I would love if you guys sent me your own list of arcade games. It would be a hoot to share, compare, and contrast. I guess I have such a fond set of memories of the arcade days. It was back when video games were new and fresh. They were so new and fresh that you would have to pay at least 25 cents, if not 50 or even $1 to play a game. Nowadays, it's cool, man. You got them in your house. You can play all day. They cost a bit, but you can play as much as you want, and people do. I myself, I am not much of a home gamer. I have been in the past, but not so much nowadays. I kind of stopped at the PlayStation 3. I do fire it up every once and again, but it's just, it's not my favorite hobby. I like to write. I like to do this. I like to stand action figures up. I occasionally play with Play-Doh or draw robots. I can't judge. I won't judge. I do what I like, and what I like to do is talk about things from the past, things like think like top 5 arcade game list of all the times. I had a good time putting this together. It was cool to dig in there and pull some of these memories out. There are so many fond memories in my brain stem, in my lizard brain about video games that I had a hard time narrowing it down, but I was able to do so. So without further ado, the way we're going to do this is 5 is the worst. 1 is the best. It's the opposite of the good old-fashioned Source Magazine mic meter. So without further ado, let's find out what my 5th favorite video game in the arcade realm is of all the times.
Number 5. Smash TV.
Let's go!
My number 5 all-time arcade game is a game known as Smash TV. Smash TV came out in 1990, so it was at the tail end of the arcade era. It was released by Williams. I must confess, I did not play this game in any of the big arcades. Aladdin's Castle was gone by then. Scandia wasn't in effect like it was now, and by that I mean I didn't have a car to get over to the next city with any reliability. So I played this game at a place called Merv's Little Super. Merv's Little Super was a deli / sleazy convenience store across the street from the local junior college. We lived maybe a mile or so away from Merv's Little Super at the time, and I had a cousin that I would hang out with all the time. This was an Australian chap. You've heard me make mention of him a few times in the past, but he and I would regularly trek over to the Merv's Little Super to go and play Smash TV. It was a bit of a ritual between the two of us. We would go down there, we would play Smash TV, get some sodas, get some hot dogs, and just get out of the house for a while. This was in like the waning years of, living with my folks, and I was wanting to stretch my wings, so any chance I got to get out and do something I took. And one of the things that I did with a lot of regularity was play Smash TV. Smash TV is a video game that it emulates a futuristic game show where the purpose is to gun people down and gather prizes. It's not really any kind of a game I would play today, but it definitely appealed to the post-high school. I see robots and my cuz from down under. The game had an interesting style of play. There are 2 joysticks, one which controls the direction of your player, and the other controls the direction in which he fires his weapon. There are all kinds of like little bonus things you can pick up to give you different weapons, and the prizes you pick up are the silly stuff. There's like TVs, toasters, coffee machines. I don't know if that was one of them. These are the kind of things you get. I would also play this game many years later over at the Sebastopol flea market. At one time, they had a restaurant in the flea market. They didn't have a lot of indoor seating. It was mostly just like where you would go to get donuts. But you can get like a hamburger or a hot dog or whatever and take it and go on your way. But they did have like 4 or 5 video games, and one of these games was Smash TV, and I would frequently, after getting a Diet Pepsi or whatever, go over and play a little Smash TV. Eventually, I recall one of the joysticks broke, and they never fixed it, and then eventually they turned that restaurant into the flea market offices. I really miss that place. Merv's Little Super is gone to rather. I think that it is called Ike's nowadays. I think that it's Ike's, and it is known for having some of the most delicious sandwiches in all of Santa Rosa. I myself partaken in one, which is my loss. 2.0's got them. The wife's got them. She says they are delish. I've just never have myself. I guess I don't want to go inside Merv's Little Super and see the wall-to-wall sleaze that was this place turned into a nice deli. Merv's Little Super was so sleazy. It specialized in booze. You know, this was a place where you could get super cheap booze. It was full of winos. They had a giant rack full of magazines that was mostly adult magazines. They sold adult movies. They sold all kinds of weird novelties and sort of the off-brand weird things that you get when you go to a convenience store that's not a 7-Eleven or a Circle K or a Wawa or whatever it is you have in your neck of the woods. I miss that place. It was so grody, but it was also super fun. I bet the people over there probably thought it was a blight on the neighborhood, but I loved it. I loved to go there. I loved to play Smash TV. I had a great time. Let's find out what's next. What's the number 4 game of all the time and space?
Number 4. Gauntlet.
My number 4 arcade game of all the times is a game known as Gauntlet. Gauntlet was released in 1985 by good old Atari Games. I can super distinctly remember the first time that I ever saw a Gauntlet game. It wasn't the first time I ever played. I wasn't given the chance, but I remember going into Aladdin's castle, and I could hear the narrator's voice across the place. And as I got nearer and nearer the game, I realized this is like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's a video game. Gauntlet is a 4-player game where you see an overhead view of a dungeon, and each of the 4 players can pick one of 4 different characters. Let's see if I can recall this off the top of my head. You have a warrior, a wizard, a lady, and an elf, and each one has like minorly different attributes. When I went over to try to play the game, I was not able to get anywhere near it. You could keep popping in quarters to continue the gameplay, and the rules of the arcade dictated that once you were up, you could keep pumping quarters in, which was something you needed to do because your health meter started going down as soon as you started playing. It was like you had some kind of a disease, and you're already well on your path to death. You could find food, which would give you more health, more hit points, but you could never beat the rate in which it was automatically going down. Gauntlet was like the centerpiece of Aladdin's castle. For a good while after it came out, there were like crowds all around it all the time, and I could never get the chance to get in. It was older dudes with the denim jackets and the feathered hair just rocking out and playing that game. There was one time I did get the chance to get up on the cab, and I'll never forget it. I will now share. I played more than once. This was like the first major time that I played. I got on the cab. We were at the mall at the Aladdin's castle, and it was like a slower day in the mall. So when we went up there, I was able to get in on a game with 3 other people. I was able to jump in as the 4th, and believe it or not, I got to be the warrior. I recall everybody wanted to be the warrior or the elf. The elf was super popular too. I guess it's like it goes on how you view yourself, how you view your fictional fighting skills. Are you a powerhouse like the warrior, or are you small and fast like the elf? It depends a lot on your self-view. Some dudes also, they wanted to be the wizard. There was nothing wrong with the wizard, but I saw that most people did go for one of those 2 characters. Nobody wanted to be the Valkyrie, but there was somebody on the Valkyrie in the game when I jumped in. These were kids. They were like roughly my age. I'm thinking I was like 10 to 12, maybe somewhere in that range. And these were little nerds like myself. We were going at it, and I had a fair amount of quarters that day. Most days I did not, but for some reason this day, I got a pocket full of quarters, and I'm heading to the arcade, and I'm jumping into Gauntlet, and we're going at it, and we're going past levels, and we're just like, we're in the zone. I remember at one point, the kid who was the Valkyrie died, and he ran off. He's like, I'll be back. And he ran through the mall, and he did come back like many minutes later. I guess he had to go find his parents and beg for more quarters. And we're rocking it. We're just like, we're in the zone. And I could hear over the loudspeakers that they were getting ready to close the mall, that it was getting near that time. We were in the zone, like I said, and we're rocking out the Gauntlet. We're just passing level after level. I'm pumping quarters in. It was super fun. And then I heard the announcement that the mall was closing, but one of the kids is like, don't worry about it. As long as we're inside, they can't throw us out. It's only for the people who are trying to get in now. So we're playing, and we must have been going at it for an additional 20, maybe 30 minutes when one of the dudes ran out of quarters, and he's like, okay, guys, I'm out. And he turned around, and I felt this odd tension. I felt like there's something going on, because he was sort of standing there with I could feel a bit of trepidation. So I looked over my shoulder, and there were like the 5 or 6 people who were working at Aladdin's castle at the time. I don't even know why it needed that many people, but that's what it was. And the lights were on. They had turned the lights on in Aladdin's castle, and I didn't even notice because I was so in the zone. But I noticed it when I turned around, and they were all in a half circle around us, looking super angry, like they wanted to leave that second, and they didn't want us to play any longer. They wanted to move on. And then one of the guy goes, it's the 4th of July, right? It's the 4th of July, and we want to get out of here. And we were younger, and they were older, and we're all like, I'm so sorry. And we slinked off. I had no idea that it was the 4th of July. I don't know why. I am sometimes obtuse to these things, but the fact that it was this important holiday just was right over my head. I imagine that I knew, but I didn't think about it or care. I didn't think that these older dudes probably had like bonfires and beach parties and all these cool things to get to. And I was being an insensitive, self-serving jerk, but it's a fun story that I remember. We took off, we left the game, we're like, let's get out of here. And we headed out. Let's move forward in the show and find out what is my number 3 arcade game of all the time and space.
Number 3. Spike Hunter.
My number 3 game of all the time and space is a game known as Spy Hunter. It was released in 1983 by Bally Midway, and Wikipedia classifies it as a vehicular combat game, and I guess that makes sense. In Spy Hunter, you're behind the wheel of a car that's equipped with many James Bond-like weapons. You got machine guns, you got spikes on the tires, you got oil slicks, and you got smoke clouds, you got whatever, and you're going down the road, minding your own business, trying to kill spies, trying to defend yourself against various spies who bump you off or shoot you, and every once and again you get the chance to drive up into a truck where you get additional armament. The first time that I saw Spy Hunter was at the Chuck E. Cheese. This was one of the rare times that I went to the Chuck E. Cheese without ordering pizzas. It was one of the rare times I went there without my family. Me and a couple of my dogs got dropped off at the mall, and the Chuck E. Cheese was across the street and down the ways a bit from the mall. You could easily get there. We got dropped off at the mall, and we weren't going to get picked up for a while. And as I recall, we had already done Aladdin's Castle, and we were looking for some new thrills. We were young thrill seekers, so we decided to go across the way and dip into Chuck E. Cheese. and see what was going on. But we were all of the thought that you couldn't go into Chuck E. Cheese unless you bought some pizza. So we kind of dipped in slow and low toward the counter. There was a long walkway and then the counter, and you had to go past the counter and into the restaurant. I always felt like because of the setup, the way that the counter sort of blocked your entry into the arcade, that you had to buy something or you could not go down the way. I don't know if that were true, but we dipped down low and we waited until the pizza gal was looking the other way, and we kind of skedoodled into the arcade. I remember feeling like so jazzed to be doing something that seemed so adventurous. And when we got in there, our adventurous spirit was quickly paid off, because there was a brand new game there. I was never into driving games, but when I saw Spy Hunter, there, it was the sit down version where you're behind the wheel with the pedals, and you got the buttons to fire on the everything in Spy Hunter is perfect. I just sort of faded away there for a second while I was imagining what it was like. It was just so perfect, this moment of adventurous spirit and discovery. We were on Cloud 9, so we saw the game there, and there was this older dude. I remember dude had a beard and he had longer hair. I can still like vaguely picture this guy. We thought he was like the coolest dude we'd ever seen because he was there at Chuck E. Cheese, and he had a bucket, one of those buckets that you used to get at casinos to carry your coin winnings around. He had one of those. I think it was from the Caesar's Palace in Tahoe, and it was full up to the top with quarters, and he was playing Spy Hunter, and just every time he'd go down, he would pop in another quarter. And this was happening frequently because, to me, Spy Hunter is a fairly hard game. I would crash repeatedly, and I still crash like crazy. I don't know if I have ever made it to the boat level. Eventually, you move past your car into a speedboat, and I don't even know if I've ever made it to the speedboat point at the arcade. I'm saying in my mind that I didn't, because I think that I would have remembered. It's weird to say, I don't know if I remember. I think that's another way of saying I don't want to admit. I know that it's the truth, but I'm not ready to admit. I've never made the boat level in the arcade, but we're watching this dude play, and he's popping it in, and I can't believe his opulence. We had nothing, as I recall. We were just looky-loos. We were those kids that hang around the arcade and watch the people with jobs play. We were entranced by this game, though. It looked so fantastic, and we're asking the dude questions while he's playing, and I'm certain that we were bothering him. We're just like, which button's for the machine gun? How do you get the smoke? What happens here? What's going on? What's this song? What's the song that we hear? We were bombarding this dude with questions, and he was being polite, but we could see that we were starting to push him a bit. And as youths, it's kind of fun to push on buttons. So we kept answering questions because he was getting more and more annoyed with us, and we were in that adventurous spirit. And eventually we got to where we were like, can we have some quarters? Can we have a couple quarters? You have so many quarters. Look how many you have. And I wasn't leading the charge. One of the other guys was, and he's like, come on, you've got like 1,000 quarters. Just give us each one. Just give us each one. And he's like, no, I'm not going to. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. He starts going, leave me alone. I'm trying to play. And he got like more emboldened by being told to hit the road. He's like, come on, just give us one. Just give us one. We don't have any. And the guy stops playing, turns, and he looks at my friend, and he goes, right now, what you're telling me, it got me constipated. He goes, do you know what it means to be constipated? And he goes, no, I don't know. He goes, it means I don't give a... And we started cracking up that this adult, like, cursed right in my friend's face. So That's my story. That's why I love Spy Hunter. I still love it today. It's super hard. I absolutely stink at it. Let's move forward and find out what's my number 2 video game of the arcade era of all the time in space.
Number 2. Burger Time.
My number 2 game of all the time in space is a game known as Burger Time. Burger Time was released in 1982 by Data East, and it is what would you say about this? What would you say about the game? It's an adventure into a weird world where you are some sort of a burger chef who has to make burgers, all the while evading like hot dogs and fried eggs and all other sorts of things. You kind of run along a platform. I guess that makes it a platform. You're running along a platform and you have to knock the buns down and the meat down and all these things down, all the while sausages and things they're all trying to get up on you and kill you to death. It's a super weird game. It's very imaginative. I can't imagine thinking up this idea of this burger chef being pursued by food all the while trying to make food. I love it. I think that it's great. I was not into Burger Time back in the actual arcade era. It's a difficult game, and I wasn't prone to tossing my quarters into things that I stunk at, and I madly stunk at Burger Time. But it is the arcade game that I played the most today. They have it on a MAME cabinet over at Scandia, and every time we go there, it's my go-to game. I will always play that MAME cabinet, and the first game I always start with is Burger Time. I don't know how I got started back into the Burger Time thing, because they have all the arcade classics on this thing, and I could pick and play whatever I wanted. It may be that I want to play a game that I'm not super familiar with. Maybe I wanted a new experience. So I said, well, didn't play a lot of Burger Time. Let's give that a shot. And now with my improved adult manual dexterity, I'm able to have a little more fun with it than I did before. I can usually clear the first couple of screens, which is well more than I ever could have done. I would barely be able to beat a burger or make a burger is what I meant to say. I could barely even make one. Now I can make like 8 to 12 burgers sometimes. So there is that, there's like that feeling of satisfaction being good at something that I was not good at all. Back in the olden times. I had the chance to play an actual Burger Time cabinet. They have one at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in the warm California sun. They have one there. They have a very small retro area. Massive arcade, very small retro area, but they do have a Burger Time, and I was able to get down on that, and that was cool. It has nice side graphics of the burger chef. It's an attractive machine. Burger Time is just a good, solid game. It's very imaginative. The gameplay itself it's pretty good. Sometimes it's hard to get down a ladder, but the game itself overall, I feel like it reacts pretty well. The controls are easy. You get a fair amount of pepper. Pepper is what you can use to stun your opponents, and I think that overall the game comes together really well. It holds up really well, and I always have fun, and I always get a good challenge when I play some Burger Time. So for those reasons, it's my number 2 game of all the time in space. It's time. Let's get ready. Let's move forward in the world and find out what is my number 1 arcade game of all the time in space.
And here it is. After all that waiting and good talking, I see Robot's favorite arcade game of all the times. What else? Of course it's Miss Pac-Man.
My favorite arcade game of all the time and space is a classic. It's a classic that goes by the name of Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man is a maze game that was released by Midway in January of 1982. I have been into Miss Pac-Man the entirety of my arcade life. They had a Miss Pac-Man game at the bowling alley here in good old Rincon Valley, and I would play this game all the time. With me and my buddy would roll over there, and we would play Miss Pac-Man at least 2 or 3 times a week. And when I say that, I don't mean that I played 2 or 3 times. I mean we would ride over there for the purpose of playing 2 or 3 times a week. Once we got over there, we'd play at least a few times. I consider Miss Pac-Man to be the ultimate test of arcade skill. I think that everybody has played Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man so many times in their life that we are all, to some degree, on equal footing with Pac-Man. So when the challenge goes out there, there is no great equalizer like Miss Pac-Man. I have a Miss Pac-Man machine in the garage of the Earth base. It is the only arcade cabinet I have ever owned in my life. Unfortunately, it does not work right now. If you're some kind of an expert in this, I could use help. I would like to get this running. I miss having it when it was up and running for a good long time, and then one day it starts up, but it doesn't go to the screen that it's supposed to. It's like on some wiggly screen, and I would love to get this running, man. I would play it all the time. I'd go out there and I'd have a few rounds. Me and the wife would have a few rounds when 2.0 owner had some friends over. They would go out there and they would play because they got a kick of having one of these so close and so accessible. I think that I own the one that was in the bowling alley. I do not know this for sure. I bought it from a local guy who fixes up arcade games. He works at a charity that they work with kids with learning disabilities, and they get together and they fix these machines and they sell them for the funding for the group. I bought this one from them, and on the side of the game, a name is scratched in. It looks like it was scratched in with either a pen or some kind of a knife or something, and it is the name of the friend that I hung out with and played there. And the kid had a bit of a unique name. Okay, I'll just say it. His name was Macintosh, and Macintosh is scratched on the side of the machine. I don't know. Maybe there's a couple other Macintoshes running around Santa Rosa. Maybe this game is from a far off land, but I like to imagine when I go and I see it that it is the same one that we used to play. There's just nothing better than Miss Pac-Man, and for that reason, I pick it as my number one game of all the time and space. But there are many other amazing games out there, and I wanna take this chance. I want to give a shout out to some other games that deserve shouting at. Big shout out to NBA Jams and Cyberball. You're both in the house. Big shout out to Street Fighter of all.
They be on the deals, Nick.
Of all varieties. Big shout out to Mortal Kombat. A big shout out to Pit Fighter. They had you at Merv's Little Super 2. Shout out to Donkey Kong. Shout out to Tapper. Shout out to Kung Fu Fighter. I dug you the most. Shout out to Track and Field, man, hitting those buttons until your fingers bled. This was before you knew that pencil trick. Big shout out to Tron. Big shout out to Tron and your glowing blue joystick. Big shout out to Battlezone. You're one of the first games I ever remember playing. We gotta give a shout out to Pac-Man himself. You are in the house. Shout out to Galaga and Defender. They had you down at the round table down the street. There are just so many great video games that I'm running out of time to name them all. You're all in the house.
Please drop by supportthereport.com and consider becoming a show patron for as low as a measly $1 a month. It's the right thing to do. You've made it this far. It's time. The final segment. The IC Robots radio pop culture / toy news / other boring stuff informational moment.
All right, we are back. We are back for the final moment, the final segment, the final everything of this particular episode. This is me, IC Robots, and we're going to head up out of here imminently. I partook in my first post Toys R Us shopping trip for toys the other day. The Toys R Us is still open as we speak, but it is more of a sad sight than anything. I do plan on going down again just to kiss the floor and say goodbye. And it's sad, and I just want to make sure I got at least one in there. But I'm still also on the hunt for new toys, dude. So I had to get up out there and I had to see what there was in the world. I'm looking for the second series of the Star Wars dudes that are out right now. The Solo dudes. There's a Princess Leia in the Hoth getup that I wanted. I like how her braids are going across the top of her head, and I wanted that. So we had to go over to the Target. I guess the Target on Santa Rosa Avenue is the new #1 toy spot, which is a shame. It has nowhere near the amount of space that there was over at the TRU, but they do have a fairly large selection. They have like a whole big area on the side. It's huge and it's full of toys and it's fine. It's not the TRU. What I like about the TRU is that is still all toys. It's all toys. I don't have to go past the girls' clothes. I don't have to go past the towels and the greeting cards and all these things to get to the toys. I go past other toys to get to the toys that I want. So I don't know. We might start parking on the other side. There are two entrances. One of them is more near the toys, and I think I might demand that we park there so I can go directly to the toys and pretend like I'm in a toy store. I have mental problems. I need that. So we dipped down over there to look for this Princess Leia that I wanted, and we found it. They had all the new Solos in stock. I was happy to get this one. It's a pretty fair likeness of the lovely Carrie Fisher from the planet of Hoth, and the blaster is a replica that's pretty much on point to the real blaster. I'm looking at it right now. In the face, she looks a lot like Carrie Fisher, more so than the old Kenner figures. The Kenner figures, of course, have an amazing amount of charm, but they get a lot of nice details to the face for a $7.99 action figure. And she has a rubberized coat, which is something that I always like. So I pick that up, and we spent some time. I said, I gotta go through this. I gotta learn to adjust. So we went through the entirety of the toy section, and it took a good while. They have nice selection of just about everything. The action figure selection it's comparable to the TRU. They don't carry some things that I really like. For example, mini mates. They don't have mini mates at Target, and I do enjoy checking out the latest mini mates releases. They don't seem to have as much of the scary McFarlane stuff, which isn't my cup of tea, but I like checking it out. It's not what I would call a bare bones toy store, but it's not a TRU. I hope that these rumors about KB Toys are accurate. They have said that they're gonna do some pop-up stores in December, and depending upon the success level of the pop-ups, they might open up some actual stores. So let's hope that's all in effect. But I guess in my heart of hearts, I find it hard to believe. I find it hard to imagine a world where there are actual KB toy stores here in Santa Rosa. At one point, we had two. We had one in the mall. It was downstairs in the mall. I used to go there all the time. For a while, that was more my spot than the TRU. My folks would go to the mall a lot more than they would go all the way down Santa Rosa Avenue. So I would hit that place up like all the time. And then there was another one in Montgomery Village where Copperfields is. We would have like a 3-store circuit. Once I got older and more into like toy collecting, we had a 3-store circuit. We'd have the KB in the mall, KB in Cottingtown, KB in Montgomery Village rather, and then we would also hit up the Toys R Us. And from time to time, we'd hit up Toy and Model in Cottingtown. It was a golden age of toy stores, and I hate to think that age is going away. We have an independent toy store here in town called Kaleidoscope Toys. They do have some action figures. We dipped in there. They had some Jurassic Park stuff, but they mostly have like educational toys. I wonder sometimes with these smaller toy stores if it's hard to get the vendors to sell you like the Star Wars Black and like the Marvel Legends. I don't know, because I don't know why you never see those in the indie toy stores. You do see them in comic book stores, but not in these indie toy stores. We have another toy store. It's an indie store, the toy store over in Sebastopol, and they used to have a store here in Santa Rosa as well, and they would never have action figures. They'd have like Playmobiles and Legos and things like that, but never Star Wars Black, never McFarlane toys, never Mini-Mates, never things like that. But time marches on, and it's sad, but you do gotta live in the present. You can definitely enjoy your memories of the past, but the reality is you live in the now. You gotta live in the now. You gotta do what you can. You can't fret that much. So I will be hitting up the Target. I will be doing my best to enjoy that. I found that if we looked at every single thing, every single section, like if we go through, I spent time with her looking at the Barbies. She likes the Barbies. If I kind of look at them with the clinical eye of a toy collector, and I can have fun doing that. And I even had fun looking at like the Play-Dohs and stuff. There are some fun Play-Doh things. I saw this neat Play-Doh, what would you call it? It was kind of like a Foreman grill, but you would use it to make hamburgers. It was like a mold that shaped the various pieces of a hamburger, but it wasn't like that Foreman grill format. That looked really fun. It came with like 4 cans of Play-Doh, and it was only like $9.99. I considered getting it. I've been goofing around with some Play-Doh. I bought some Play-Dohs, and I found a Play-Doh Fun Factory at the Dollar Tree, a knockoff, and I've been having fun with that. And I see the value in spending time doing these things. It's really a good way to get your mind off what's going on. Just like make some Play-Doh spaghetti and wrap it around your finger. The smell alone is worth it. I almost bought this Foreman grill, this Play-Doh Foreman hamburger grill. Maybe I still will. I don't know. It was only $9. That's you can't beat that price. You can't beat $9. And you know what else you can't beat? You can't beat the quality that an old wrestling magazine brings into your life. I've been following this page. It's called Classic Wrestling Matches and Mags, and Homeboy over there has been scanning in all these fantastic pictures from the old after mags. That's what we call them, the mastermind behind these things, with this cat named Bill Apter. It's probably actually like Stanley Weston, but Bill Apter is the dude that we know. These are the kind of magazines you would see down at the newsstand, where there'd be like a picture of, for example, Dusty Rhodes covered in blood, wearing the proverbial crimson mask, getting the beat down on Ric Flair, or maybe getting the beat down from the Four Horsemen, Tully, Arn, Ole, and Ric Flair, with little J.J. Dillon thrown in there. You'd see that kind of stuff. And this page on Facebook's been really putting out some neat images. So I highly recommend you go over there. It's Classic Wrestling Matches and Mags on Facebook. You gotta give them a thumbs up, and then these things start showing up in your feed. And if you wanna reminisce about the days of old wrestling, this is definitely your one-stop place. This is for all the guys who don't like the product nowadays. And I know there's a lot of you out there, so consider Classic Wrestling Matches and Mags. As you as you guys can tell, we're entering the summer months, the hottest, yuckiest time of the year, and that means in one sense, it's like you get to have a lot of fun. You get to go out. You get to do a lot of fun things. A lot of fun movies are coming out. Jurassic Park, Ant-Man and the Wasp, all sorts of cool things. But it also leads to at least a bit of difficulty here on the Jupiter moon base. School is out, life is going on, so kind of emotionally prepare yourself for getting maybe a little bit of shorter shows over the next period of time. I always do my best to put everything into every episode, but as the summer months begin, the difficulty in putting the time in starts to weigh, and there may be shows with less features. There may be things like that, but it's gonna be all good. It's gonna be all fun. We always have a nice time around here at the ISR moon base down on Earth base 1. I moan about the heat of the summer, but I do like the summer. I like the opportunities to go swimming. We're planning on doing some more swimming this year than we did last year. I like things like that. I don't dig the heat, but I do dig the experiences. We're gonna go to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk this year. We're gonna do a bunch of fun, cool stuff, and a lot of that fun, cool stuff somewhat cuts into the time spent recording here. I use a lot of my vacation time from Pooptronics to go out there and live a fruitful life. But part of living a fruitful life is doing this. I really enjoy rapping at you guys. I enjoy talking about toys. I like doing all that fun stuff. I just may have a little less time to do it than I normally do. So emotionally prepare yourself for the possibility that there may be some shorter shows, some featureless shows until the schools are back in, I guess, is what I mean to say. Is there anything else on the agenda to talk about? Not sure what next week's show is going to be about. It's going to be about something fun. I'm batting around a few ideas. We need to induct the next inductee into the 5 Mic Hall of Fame. That's something. I know we're gonna get an update. We're gonna get an update on Johnny Five's cryptocurrency. I'm not sure if it's gonna be AB or J5 on the show, but they're gonna talk about the release of the crypto coins, the Johnny coins. I don't know if you guys bought any. I myself, I didn't. I invested in this Princess Leia figure. I guess I tend to invest in encased plastic, and I also invest in comic books. I didn't get any comics this week. I did get my weekly comics from over at Comics for the Win, my man Chris's shop. I went over there. I saw Tatiana. What did I get? I got the latest issue of the Archies. Let me reach out. I'll talk about... Hold on. Let me see. It's just past my reach. You guys missed it. I used the Force to pull these comics into my clutches. I got a couple. I got the latest issue of the Archies, which is sadly the last issue of the Archies. The Archies is about Archie's band, which is known as the Archies, and the hook is that every month they have like a famous band in it. Like they had Blondie, they had Churches, they had Tegan and Sarah, which I thought was really fun. For a period of time, Jughead went off and he was the drummer for Tegan and Sarah. I got this book called DC Nation. This was like a quarter, and it has 3 different stories in it. It has the first Bendis Superman story that I have yet read. I thought it was pretty good. Lois Lane has left the Daily Planet for another job, and they're expecting Clark Kent to step up and be more of a reporter. I enjoyed it. There's a Batman story about the Joker that I thought was really good. It leads into the Batman Catwoman marriage, which I think is cool, but also weird. And then I got Daredevil number 602. I haven't had the chance to read this yet, but there's some kind of female ninja on the cover. And then I also got, let me grab this one. I was looking at this. I got Kick-Ass number 4 by Mark Miller and John Romita Jr. This is a tale of a new Kick-Ass. It's not the It's not the high school kid. She's a army vet who's down on her luck, and she's pulling heist. She's pulling heist dressed as a superhero to get some snaps. I got all these. It was a pretty good week in comic. These are all things that I'm putting them back in the paper sack. I'm looking forward to all of those. Oh, I got some new IC Robots radio stickers here on the moon base. I got a couple varietals. If you're interested in getting up on one of those, just hit me up with a message. Hit me up on Facebook. That's facebook.com/IC Robots, or hit me up on Twitter. You're going to need to send me your address, but if you're cool doing that, I'll send you out a couple of these. They're really neat. I like the graphic. It's like two guys in a wrestling mask. It's the super intelligent destroyer in a destroyer mask. It's a good sticker. If you want one, hit me up on Facebook, send me a message. Hit me up on Twitter, send me a message. I'm more than happy to whip one of these out your way. I think it's cool to have these for you guys. Anybody wants one, let me know. I think that's about it. So until next time, this is me, IC Robots, saying I'm gonna get out of here. It's signing off episode. I had to look and see what number episode it was. I completely forgot. So episode number 156. This is me, IC Robots, signing off for engineer Emily, Melissa over in Pod B, AB Silver, Johnny 5, Iceberg, everyone else who helps out. Until then, if you don't know, now you know.
ELE.
That's right, ELE. What does ELE stand for?
Everybody love everybody.
Everybody love everybody. Right there up on the wall.
This has been an IC Robots radio production. IC Robots Radio is a listener-supported endeavor. If you like what we do and we make your day a little easier, please consider tossing a few bucks our way to help keep the life support running. All money collected goes to help us prepare for future space pirate attacks. Go on over to supportthereport.com for all the details. Thanks and have a great week.
KBHK TV 44, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, Bay Area Cable 12.